Minister Spahn, this is Chris in Geneva. Do you hear me okay, sir?
Yes, hello, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry for being late.
Perfect. We will be starting soon. Please stand by.
Hello and welcome. Guten Tag und Grüß Gott. I'm having the pleasure to invite you and to welcome you today to this very special joint virtual event with Her Excellency German Federal Chancellor Dr. Angela Merkel, WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, and His Excellency German Federal Minister of Health Jens Spahn on the launch of the new global hub for pandemic and epidemic intelligence. The press release has been shared a moment ago, and you've all seen the media advisory here. It is Wednesday, 5 May 2021. We're sharing this event live on Twitter, and it will be available on YouTube. Without further ado, let me hand over the floor to the Director General, Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, for the introductory remarks.
Thank you, Christian. Your Excellency Jens Spahn, Federal Minister of Health, dear colleagues and friends. Germany has been a steadfast partner to WHO for many years, but especially during the past year. And I have personally appreciated the strong leadership of Her Excellency Angela Merkel, the Chancellor of Germany. In my first week as Director General in 2017, I had the honor of attending the G20 summit in Hamburg, where, under Chancellor Merkel's leadership, Germany put a very strong emphasis on health and emergency preparedness years before COVID-19. As part of Germany's G20 presidency, Chancellor Merkel also initiated the first ever meeting of G20 health ministers, which included a health emergency simulation exercise. In October last year, I was honored to speak to Chancellor Merkel, which is when we first discussed the idea for a new center that would serve as a global platform to enhance global capacity for pandemic and epidemic intelligence. Chancellor Merkel cannot be with us live, but we're delighted that she has recorded a video message for today's event.
Sehr geehrter Herr Generalsekretär, lieber Tedros, sehr geehrter Herr Ryan, verehrte Damen und Herren. Im Herbst letzten Jahres hast du, Tedros, mir vorgeschlagen, hier in Berlin ein WHO-Büro zu eröffnen. Ein Hub, um zukünftige Pandemieausbrüche frühzeitig erkennen und wenn möglich verhindern zu können, auf jeden Fall aber gemeinsam besser auf sie reagieren zu können. Die Welt hat gelernt, dass wir einer globalen Herausforderung wie der aktuellen Covid-19-Pandemie nur gemeinsam begegnen können. Und mittlerweile haben auch alle erkannt, dass die WHO dabei die zentrale globale Gesundheitsinstitution ist. Eine wesentliche Grundlage des Kampfes gegen künftige Pandemien sind Daten. Daten, die, wenn man sie bündelt und mit den richtigen Analysewerkzeugen verarbeitet, Erkenntnisse hervorbringen, die wir alleine, jeder für sich, niemals oder zumindest niemals so schnell entdecken könnten. Diese technischen Möglichkeiten wird der WHO-Hub in Berlin nutzen und die Erkenntnisse mit allen Staaten teilen. Berlin ist ein guter Standort für den WHO-Hub, nicht nur, weil wir damit in Deutschland die WHO auch ganz direkt unterstützen können, sondern auch, weil hier viele bedeutende Akteure aus Gesundheit und Digitalisierung zusammenkommen. Ich denke da natürlich an die Charité und das Robert-Koch-Institut, aber genauso an das Hasso-Plattner-Institut. Sie alle sind schon jetzt in der Gesundheitsforschung stark international vernetzt. Wenn ihre Expertise nun durch den WHO-Hub ergänzt wird, schaffen wir hier in Berlin ein einzigartiges Umfeld für Pandemie- und Gesundheitsforschung. Ein Umfeld, aus dem wichtige, handlungsorientierte Erkenntnisse für Regierungen und Verantwortliche weltweit hervorgehen werden. Der Hub soll noch in diesem Jahr eröffnet werden. Ich begrüße diese wichtige Initiative und sage schon jetzt herzlich willkommen in Berlin.
My deep gratitude to Chancellor Merkel for her leadership and partnership. Of course, like every great leader, Chancellor Merkel is supported by a great team. Even as he has led the response to COVID-19 at home, Germany's Federal Minister of Health, Jens Spahn, has played an essential leadership role on the global stage. Jens, thank you so much once again for your leadership and partnership, and you have the floor.
Tedros, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for this opportunity. And Tedros, thank you very much for the good cooperation that we do have between the Federal Republic of Germany and the World Health Organization. Germany has always been, as you just mentioned, a strong supporter of the WHO, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have always called for a strong investment in preparedness. COVID-19 has taught us many, many lessons, but today I want to highlight just two. The first is that globally we all need to work together to be better prepared for the next pandemic. And the second is that we must strengthen WHO's leading and coordinating role, particularly in pandemic preparedness. And there is one sentence I keep on repeating, that is that an organization like the WHO can only be as good as we, as the member states, let it be. And that counts for financial resources, but that counts for cooperation and quick information, just in case, for example, of an emergency too. Several panels and committees have been reviewing the global response to the pandemic, and their reports and recommendations will be announced at the World Health Assembly later this month. They will call for nothing less than a global reset in pandemic preparedness. They will clarify that in order to be best prepared, we must not focus on the last crisis, but rather on the next one. This has also been the message of the Global Preparedness and Monitoring Board. Ladies and gentlemen, the time to act is now. That is, after all, the meaning of the word preparedness. Germany fully supports the leading and coordinating role of WHO in pandemic preparedness, and therefore the essential function of WHO has to be further strengthened if we are to build back better. WHO needs the capacities to detect any outbreak that has the potential to become a domestic, a regional, or even global health crisis before the threat becomes a sad reality. The world continuously faces pandemic risks, mutations of existing pathogens, expansions of diseases to previously unaffected populations, and diseases spillover events from animals to human creates a rapidly changing risk environment. So far, the world is insufficiently prepared for this. In our highly interconnected world, pandemic risks need to be identified as early as possible to prevent rapid global transmission of an infectious disease, as we have all witnessed and still do with COVID-19. While we all have made progress in developing public health intelligence and risk analysis capacities, a globally concerted approach under WHO's leadership must be firmly established. There's a clear need for a stronger global early warning, alert, and emergency response system with improved public health intelligence and interdisciplinary risk analysis that supports decision makers worldwide. Better data and better analytics are key for better decisions. A WHO hub for pandemic and epidemic intelligence can make the difference for a safer future. A WHO hub is embedded in WHO's Health Emergencies Program, and that focuses on the development of a global data ecosystem to produce timely insights and tools for policymakers before, during, and after epidemic and pandemic events, also related to new dimensions we need to deal with, such as infodemics. This is why Germany was proud and excited when Director General Tedros proposed to Chancellor Merkel in fall last year that we work together to establish this global capacity. Today, I'm honored to announce with Director General Tedros that the WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence will be established here in Berlin this year with the full support of the German government. Berlin offers a vivid, enabling environment for the interlinkages between public health and digitalization. Key digital players have moved to Berlin in recent years, as have key global health partners. In the area of public health, Berlin is the base of the Robert Koch Institute, which is currently setting up a major center for artificial intelligence and public health. Furthermore, with Europe's largest university hospital, the Charité, Berlin is a key European center for translational research. Berlin universities are centers of excellence and will support the multidisciplinary approach required for preparedness and response. Berlin is a hub for increased private sector investment in public health. Berlin also hosts key international multi-sector fora with relevance for global health: the World Health Summit, the Munich Security Conference, and the Global Solutions Summit. We are very confident that this local environment will provide numerous opportunities for synergies with the new WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence, being a powerful platform and connector for true global cooperation. Only by working together we can be safe. And Tedros, I would be very, very happy to welcome you as soon as possible here in Berlin again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Jens. Thank you so much, Minister Spahn. And please accept my deep personal appreciation for everything you have done over the past few years, and especially during the past difficult 12 months. And we're very, very grateful for Germany's financial support for the WHO Hub and for hosting it in Berlin, where it will benefit, as you said, from being in an innovative environment. As Minister Spahn said, rapid and reliable information is essential in every area of health, but especially when it comes to preparing for, detecting, and responding to epidemics and pandemics. The COVID-19 pandemic has exposed gaps in the global systems for pandemic and epidemic intelligence. And it is a fact of nature that there will be more viruses that will emerge with the potential of sparking epidemics or pandemics. Viruses move fast, but data can move even faster. With the right information, countries and communities can stay one step of an emerging risk and save lives. Modern technologies give us unprecedented tools for collecting, analyzing, and disseminating data in real time around the world. That's what the WHO Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence aims to do. Hosted in Berlin, the WHO Hub will be a global center that works with partners around the world to lead innovations in pandemic and epidemic intelligence, data, surveillance, and analytics. The WHO Hub will be part of the WHO Health Emergencies Program, and we expect it to play a vital role in the global health security ecosystem. It builds on WHO's existing work through the Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network and the Epidemic Intelligence from Open Sources Initiative, which scans online news sources for reports of public health threats. Indeed, it was EIOS system that picked up the first reports of a new virus in Wuhan, China, in the early hours of 31 December 2019. Our aim is that the WHO Hub will take this work to the next level, generating better data and better analytics for better decision-making and a safer world. Christian, back to you.
Thank you very much. And with this, we open the floors to a few questions. We don't have too much time, but we'll try to handle as many as possible. The first question goes to Christiane Ulrich, DPA, Deutsche Presseagentur. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, Mr. Tedros, Mr. Spahn. I have two very short questions. One is, can you just tell us how much money has to be invested and how many jobs are created? But my qualitative question is, you are still dealing with national governments, and no amount of data can force them to share information or to react on information. My understanding is that at the beginning of this pandemic, the problem was that a lot of countries just didn't act, although the information was there, and WHO did actually warn countries to get ready. How do you think that this new center is going to help solve that particular problem? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Christiane. Let me look at Dr. Mike Ryan, the Executive Director for WHO's Health Emergencies Program.
Yeah, thank you. I'll leave questions of investment on the German side to colleagues in Germany, because there's such a large ecosystem being created. But with regard to WHO's investment with the support of Germany, maybe Bernard Schwarzonder could take that question, but I will take the second part of the question. And you are correct. There are many problems to solve here. And issues around transparency and accountability cannot necessarily be solved by new technologies. But also in this response, and in many other responses in my experience in the past, being able to generate early insights as to disease risk and vulnerability and be able to take immediate action has been a very important factor in being able to mitigate disease quickly. So from that perspective, the hub aims to bring together partners from around the world to develop better access to data, to develop tools that we need to generate the insights we need before, during and after pandemics, but also to build the communities of practice, to build the trust between partners in sharing that data, in sharing those insights. So we aim to bring that whole process together across the world with institutional partners, private, public sector, and especially, and directed from WHO's perspective, in the service of our member states. The international health regulations and other processes are there to hold member states to account for the actual sharing of verified information with WHO for the purposes of confirming epidemics, and that will continue. So we want to be careful at this point to look at the hub as a centre of innovation. It's going to drive the kind of tools development we need. It's going to drive data access. But ultimately, it is for the member states of WHO to decide on what the rules of the game are regarding transparency and accountability.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ryan. And I'm looking at Federal Minister Spahn for the first part.
Well, just to add to Mike, and then Paul Zubeil, our deputy head of the department, will tell you some details on finance. But just what Mike said, that is actually what I find very important, is that a hub like the one we plan, or as I mentioned before, the WHO, same counts for the European Union and the ECDC, by the way, can only be as good as we, as states, national states, let them be. And as I said, that's not just financial resources. That is just by being transparent, by giving information. In the case of an outbreak, for example, if it is domestic, regional, or even more, only if we give information, only if we are transparent and share our informations with WHO and other national states, we can make a difference. And that is actually what you really, when talking about reforms that WHO needs in some aspects, there's definitely one reform national states need too. That is the willingness and readiness to really be transparent in such a situation when it comes to preparedness or even with dealing with an outbreak. For the details, please, Paul.
Yeah, thank you, Minister. And if I may just chip in on the financial questions that were asked in this regard. One thing is, and that as Jim has also shown, its political commitment is of course also underpinned by a financial one. So the hub can obviously rely on a predictable core funding by Germany, which is around 30 million annually. However, also WHO will work, and Mike can add onto this, with partners and donors, obviously, to attain an annual budget for the hub and its ecosystem to continuously finance it. In terms of personnel, also this is a question. The hub is owned by the WHO and its member states. So how that will play out in terms of personnel movement and mobility or new recruitments, I would hand over to Mike to elaborate a little bit on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And this was Paul Zubeil from the Ministry of Health. Dr. Mike Ryan, please.
Yes, thank you, Paul, and thank you for all your support and the practical arrangements to move this forward with Dr. Schwartz-Under and many others. We do see an expansion of staff. Clearly, we are constrained at the Secretariat level in having the critical mass of staff, particularly to develop the tools and the analytics that we need going forward. So there will be, and we have budgeted for, an increased staff level. But there will be a limited number of what we would call WHO core staff. One of the innovations that Dr. Tedros has brought to the organisation is to create new kinds of platforms that allow a different kind of collaboration with our member states. So we envisage many, many other positions for fellows, for visiting fellows, for others to join and come and do the work. A little bit like what the Swiss, German governments and the other partners in CERN have done in creating a platform onto which other people can come and apply their knowledge and skills. This isn't about expanding WHO to do the work, it's about creating a platform with Germany where everyone can come and contribute. And this becomes a facilitating environment. We bring the best minds, we bring the best ideas, and we facilitate that with the infrastructure and the tools and the supercomputing and all of the things that we need. So the vision is not to create another big bureaucratic WHO institution somewhere. It really speaks to what Dr. Tedros has been saying about transformation. Transformation in WHO, people speak about reform and they speak about all of these words. This is about transforming the way this organization engages with the world. Dr. Tedros has been doing that now since the beginning of his tenure. And this, in a sense, represents that new way of looking at the world, a much more dynamic, engaged WHO, dynamically engaging with partners, all of whom can contribute to the process. And that's bringing in our colleagues in the epidemic intelligence from open sources, many of our colleagues like ProMed and HealthMap and so many others. We're working with CERN, with Microsoft, with so many other entities around the world, our existing partners in GORN. This is about WHO, with the support of Germany, doing what I think exactly what we should be doing, is creating, facilitating, coordinating, stimulating, and allowing others to take the real innovative steps to move us forward in this regard.
Thank you so much for all these answers. Next question goes to Agnes Pereiro from AFP, Agence France Presse. Agnes, please unmute yourself.
Yes, hi everybody. Thank you for taking my question. I have a question, but just a follow-up of the answer before. We are talking about 30 million euros for Germany, and how much for WHO? If you could give us the overall budget, please, that would be very helpful, and to confirm it's in euros. And then my question. As Dr. Tedros says, there is already intelligence services, and like you say that the EIO's system pick up the first reports of the new virus. So I thought also that WHO has some data for detect new epidemics as such system. So what gap in the defenses of the detection this hub plans to fulfill? What do you want to do more? And why not in Geneva? Why to go in Berlin? I mean, Berlin has good things, but why not to stay in Geneva? Thank you.
Thank you, Agnes, for another one simple question. I was told that Federal Minister Spahn unfortunately had to leave, but he's now represented by the person you heard before. That's Paul Zubail, the Deputy Director General for European and International Health Politics. And I will ask Mr. Zubail maybe to pick part of the first part of the question, and then we'll take the rest here. Mr. Zubail.
Yes, thank you very much, and I'm happy to answer this question. In terms of funding, German funding to WHO, I was mentioning the core funding, right, that Germany delivers to WHO, which is 30 million euros indeed. On the global budget for WHO, this is my colleagues from WHO best placed to give you the exact figures. But let me just answer the question that you mentioned with regards to the location and the hub, why it's in Berlin. As you had heard, the Federal Minister of Health had outlined that why Berlin is the appropriate location for this hub. And in this regard, I would like to mention that this is a global hub. This is not a national hub. This is a global hub. We want to work with a multitude of different partners around the globe, and it's truly based on a large input of members and partners from all over the world. This hub really is also complemented in a way by Germany's global health strategy. If you think about ultimately what it really deals with is responsibility, innovation, and partnership. And this is actually what the hub is being designed to deliver, to make the world safer for everybody. And if we can achieve that with this hub, then every penny that we invest and every effort that we invest jointly as the world is the right way to go. Mike, over to you on the funding.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, we are still working out the detailed budgets going forward, and have been discussing, are in discussions with many donors at the G7 level and beyond, and institutional and foundational donors as to what further funding is going to be needed. The startup costs have been covered by Germany, but as we move forward, and the core costs of staff are covered within that, but the real costs will come later when we start to develop the systems that we need. And we are asking and reaching out to many partners in order to develop the budgets that will allow us to accelerate that activity going forward. With regard to and your question is well asked regarding the epidemic intelligence from open sources. EIOS is a fantastic project. As I said, we are very much integrated with ProMed, with GFIN, with HealthMap and other entities. It does provide very early signals. It's an AI-driven system and allows very early detection of public signals that are already in the public domain. It's currently been rolled out in a number of countries, with a number of countries piloting the system. So it's not just been developed as a global system, it's been developed with national applications. So we've developed a global system that can then be applied nationally. And from that perspective, it is a foundational block of an ecosystem. But our problem and our challenge is that that's when epidemics occur. There are signals that may occur before epidemics happen. There are risks that emerge at the animal-human interface. There is data on everything from climate to mobility to, as I said, animal-related data that can give us pre-signals, signals before epidemics start of high risks and of high vulnerabilities. The hub will allow us to develop tools for that sort of predictive analytics. Will also give us tools for managing during epidemics in terms of managing societal response, managing so many other aspects of the response. Data drives everything now. Data drives all forms of decision making. The problem is data is not always accessible. There are huge costs associated when academic, private and public sector partners try to access data. It's a huge barrier, and there's a massive equity issue in accessing that data. There are huge issues in accessing the powerful analytic tools that are needed to look at that data, and equally there are gaps in capacity with people having the ability to use those tools in order to gain those insights. The Centre will operate across that whole ecosystem. It's not just about detecting the signal in the public domain. EIOS is doing that, and we will continue to work on that, and EIOS will be a big part of the hub, we hope, and it will drive a lot of the collaborations. But it's a much bigger idea than just having a straight detection of response. I think that pretty much answers the question. We've also been joined by Dr. Oliver Morgan, who's one of the thought leaders behind this. I don't know, Oliver, if you wanted to add anything to that response.
Great, thanks, Mike. Yes, as you mentioned, the EIOS initiative will be in 55 countries by the end of this year, and additional countries still. And it's really proving a very, very important initiative to collectively identify signals. But as Dr. Ryan mentioned, it's really going beyond the detection of new signals and also continuing to assess risks as events unfold. Because as we know that an outbreak starts, you're not entirely sure where it will move or how it will develop. And so we need to continue to invest in initiatives such as EIOS, but other initiatives as well, to really manage and understand that risk much better. Thanks.
Thanks so much, all. We'll try to get another question in. And next one goes to Laurent Sierra from the Swiss News Agency. Laurent, please unmute yourself.
Thank you, Christian, for taking my question. A question to Director General. I assume you have consulted beyond Germany with a lot of different health ministers to try to assess what they think about these new initiatives. So is there broad enthusiasm, or after the different controversies on info sharing, are there some countries that might be reluctant to take part to the initiative? Thank you.
Dr. Ryan, to start, please.
I think there's been a hugely positive response to this, because this is a continuation of a theme. This is not something absolutely new. This is accelerating what we've already been doing with our member states. We've certainly had discussions with G7, and we've been engaged with the pandemic preparedness platform of the G7. We've been talking to various partners all around the world. So from that perspective, everybody understands and everybody knows that we need this. And WHO should be doing this and accelerating this work. The difference here is we have a member state who is absolutely committed to providing the platform on which we can do this. This will be WHO's work. It doesn't change a thing in the sense of what we want to do, but what it does is gives us the capacity to fully accelerate and expand that global partnership. And Minister Spahn has said it. This is not a hub in Germany per se. This is a global hub for everybody to come together and use this. And we will be laying this out within our budgets for 22-23. We will be further consulting with member states. I believe we've been consulting with the Global Outbreak Alert and Response Network, the EIOS partners, and we'll obviously be consulting in much more detail with our member states through the regions and at the upcoming World Health Assembly.
Yeah, just a little bit to add. Mike had already said the main issues. We have been working on this for some time now, as I said in my speech, and our discussion with Germany, with Chancellor, was last year. But lately, there are many recommendations coming from different corners, and they all suggest actually the importance of strengthening our surveillance system. So this is coming from different institutions, including countries or member states. So I think there is a consensus in strengthening the early warning system. So that's why this is going to be very, very important in epidemic preparedness and response. And as has been said, we have already many initiatives, and it will build on those initiatives and strengthen the overall global system in surveillance.
And may I just add to DG, one of the questions was why not in Geneva? Be rest assured, the core functions of the House are staying in Geneva, and the implementation of the international health regulations, the formal verification of disease, the development of risk assessments with our member states during events, that will still remain a function of the team here in Geneva. What we're really speaking about is creating an innovation hub for surveillance, for analytics, for insights, a centre that will accelerate all of the tools that we need for that process. So in that sense, it will be a huge advance on what we're doing now. But again, the day-to-day process of verifying epidemics with our member states under the IHR, the engagement with our member states in that formal process will remain here in Geneva under the leadership of the Director General.
Thanks all so much, and also for that clarification. I think the last question we can take will go to John Saracostas from France 24. John, please unmute yourself.
Yes, can you hear me there?
Please go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Ryan, you mentioned the issue of concern of equity to accurate data. Will this be will this center be in Berlin an open source? In other words, there won't be problem with sharing of the data concerning IP issues, etc. And if I may beg to ask an additional question, I'd love your comments on the dramatic reduction in by the UK to the polio eradication campaign by 95% this week. Could I have your thoughts on that?
Yeah, we've seen issues with equity emerge again and again, and you're absolutely correct. Access to data and access to tools for generating insights from data is also not evenly distributed, and I can assure you, and on behalf of the Director General, that that's the point of this centre, is to democratise that process, bring more partners in, create, facilitate, translate, and transfer the technologies and the capabilities to our member states and to private and public institutions capable of collaboration in that. So the central theme and the central drive of the hub will be to do just that. With regard to your question regarding the UK, I think the United Kingdom obviously has made adjustments to its ODA across the board, and there have been reductions to many investments, and that is a constraint, obviously, that the UK government faces. We continue to recognise the massive contribution that the government of the United Kingdom continues to make to global health security, to saving lives, to immunisation, and to all our collective global health goals. No other country has done more in this space, but obviously is dealing with internal policy issues, and I would refrain from commenting on that.
Thank you so much for this, and with it we come to the end of our launch event for the new Global Hub for Pandemic and Epidemic Intelligence to be based in Berlin, Germany. I'll hand over, let me first give a bit of housekeeping. We'll send the audio files of this right after the meeting, and the transcript of the press briefing will be available tomorrow. Let me ask Paul Zubeil first if there's any final comments he would like to make, and then we'll hand over to the Director General for the final remarks.
Yeah, thank you. So I would like to again express my appreciation to Chancellor Merkel and Minister Spahn, and look forward to working on this project closely. And we hope this will be a good addition in improving the epidemic preparedness and response systems that we have. And thank you also to the media who have joined us today. And see you in our upcoming presser on Friday. Thank you. Bye-bye.